Ahead on Q2, fighting against hate.
The world has become pretty divided, and we know that that's never good for any communities.
One national organization raising awareness in Billings and across Montana on the rise in hate crimes, plus a controversial bill in front of lawmakers.
I bring to you today Senate Bill 164, an act revising the offense of endangering the welfare of children.
Another transgender treatment bill takes center stage at the Capitol. We'll break it down. And rallying behind one of their own.
You know, I knew he was well loved by a lot of his friends and family, but I really didn't expect it to be this good.
A Montana community aims to come together after a man is seriously injured in a freak farming accident. The MTN News starts right now. Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us on this Monday. I'm Russ Riesinger. One organization is looking to crack down on hate crimes, and they're using an interesting tool to make it happen. Between 2021 and 2023, Montana saw 43 hate crimes. Jew Belong, a national organization that focuses on rising crimes against Jewish people, wants to bring that number down. Now, here in Montana, they're turning to billboards to make their messages heard. Our Isabel Spartz reports.
If you've traveled east on I-90 recently, you may have noticed this pink billboard catch your eye. It's meant to grab your attention and bring awareness to a growing problem.
The messages are powerful. Standing against anti-Semitism is standing with America, and I need to be able to tell my children I did not stay silent. Both messages now getting motorists' attention along I-90.
The pink and white billboards are entirely about anti-Semitism and creating awareness for a problem that we think a lot of people don't know about.
They were put up by nonprofit organization Jew Belong, which focuses on not only celebrating Judaism, but taking a stance against rising anti-Semitic hate.
Hate crimes against the Jewish community in the United States are at an all-time high. What is happening overseas is certainly affecting the Jewish community here.
Something that has been highlighted since the start of the Israel-Palestine war, with victims on both sides of this international conflict.
It's fair to say that throughout the country, and the data support this, FBI data, that hate crimes, or at least hate incidents, are on the rise.
According to Montana U.S. District Attorney Jesse Laslovich, a hate crime is when a violent act is committed against someone based on race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, or disability. Between 2021 and 2023, Montana saw 43 hate crimes.
I think our trend has been steady, unfortunately. And I wouldn't be surprised if the 24 numbers were similar to what we saw in 23 and 22.
And hate crimes were also on the rise nationwide. In 2023, there were over 2,000 reported incidents based on religion. Anti-Jewish hate made up more than half, with anti-Islamic ones being second.
The fact is, anti-Semitism is hate. And when people are getting away with anti-Semitism and hate, there are lots of other marginalized groups that come next.
A majority of hate crimes go unreported, but by standing up to what is right, Laslovich says we can bring these numbers down.
That's what we're determined to do, and that is to hold people accountable, not only because they deserve to be held accountable, but also to show the public that we're here to try to protect them.
In Billings, Isabel Swartz, MTN News.
On the national level, the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz by Soviet troops was marked this morning with a ceremony at the site of the former death camp. Nazi German forces murdered some 1.1 million people at that location in southern Poland, which was under German occupation during World War II. Elderly camp survivors, some wearing blue and white striped scarves that recall their prison uniforms, walked together to the death wall where prisoners were executed. In all, the Germans murdered 6 million Jews from all over Europe, annihilating 2/3 of Europe's Jews and 1/3 of all Jews worldwide. In 2005, the United Nations designated January 27th as International Holocaust Remembrance Day. The highly debated issue of youth transgender treatment once again took center stage at the Montana legislature today. MTN's John Riley breaks down the latest legislation heard by lawmakers and what it's hoping to accomplish.
On Monday, Montana lawmakers heard proposed legislation that would criminalize providing medical transgender treatment to individuals under the age of 16.
I bring to you today Senate Bill 164, an act revising the offense of endangering the welfare of children.
Sponsored by Republican State Senator John Fuller of Kalispell, SB 164 amends the definition of child endangerment to include providing surgeries and hormone treatment for children under the age of 16. It only applies to treatments intended to alter the perceived gender of the child from that of their biological sex. As written, both parents and medical providers could possibly be convicted. At the Senate Judiciary Committee, the public weighed in on the proposed legislation, giving lengthy testimony. Supporters of SB 164 said it was needed to prevent what they called irreversible changes.
And this legislation is critical to protecting Montana children from harmful and irreversible medical interventions. This bill recognizes the need for caution in addressing the deeply complex and personal experience of gender dysphoria. And it ensures that children are not subjected to experimental treatments with life-altering consequences.
Opponents said the bill was discriminatory against trans youth, noting they make up a very small portion of the population. Medical doctors who testified said there's no documented cases of surgical treatment being administered to trans youth in Montana, and worried how such a bill would impact medical providers.
SB 164 would make the practice of patient-centered, evidence-based, and high-quality medical care a crime. It would make the tough decisions parents make for their children's well-being a crime. Rather than allegedly protecting children, it would endanger them, remove them from their parents, and place them into a foster care system that is already overwhelmed and under-resourced in this state.
Should SB 164 pass, a convicted individual would face up to 5 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. A 2023 law passed by the Montana legislature, also sponsored by Fuller, already prohibits gender-affirming procedures in state for minors, including hormone treatments and surgeries. However, that law is currently on hold pending the outcome of a lawsuit claiming the legislation infringes on a family's right to privacy. That case is expected to go to trial this summer. In Helena, John Riley, MTN News.
Red shaded areas show where we expect warmer than average temperatures from today, tomorrow, in fact, all the way through the work week. There's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, hanging on to those warmer than average temperatures, but a shift in the pattern could bring in some much colder air as we start looking into the early part of next week. So as we take a look in the short term, we're looking at below average temperatures in the early part of February and a good chance of above average precipitation. Forecast details coming up.
School District 2 has issued guidance to teachers and staff at all schools in case that immigration and customs enforcement agents show up on school grounds. The Trump administration has rescinded a 2021 memo that designated schools and other community services as protected areas. That means it is possible that ICE agents can now carry out enforcement activities on school grounds. School District 2 says moving forward they will welcome the agents, but that contact with the superintendent must occur before anything else. The agents will also be asked for any paperwork such as warrants. Staff is also not supposed to release any protected or direct information unless approved by the superintendent or a student's guardian. The guidance also says only agents with a judicial warrant present will be allowed access to a school by law. Any interview requests with students will also first have to go through the school's district attorney before being granted. Again, no ICE activity has taken place on school grounds. This memo has been sent out just in case it may happen. Colombia caves to pressure from President Donald Trump, plus the president is expected to sign several new executive orders related to the military today. Erica Brown has the latest from Washington.
Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth arrived at the Pentagon Monday for his first full day on the job and promised to move swiftly implementing President Trump's agenda.
Our job is lethality and readiness and warfighting. We're going to hold people accountable.
During his comments, Hegseth previewed some of the military-related executive orders President Trump is expected to sign. They include policies for transgender service members, a ban on several diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, and reinstating service members discharged for refusing to get the COVID vaccine. The president is also expected to sign an executive order building an Iron Dome missile defense shield for the United States, similar to Israel's Iron Dome shield.
On the immigration front, President Trump is declaring victory after a weekend standoff with Colombia over return flights of undocumented migrants.
The country's president initially said he wouldn't accept the flights, saying the U.S. cannot treat Colombian migrants as criminals. That prompted President Trump to threaten a travel ban on Colombian government officials and 25% tariffs on imported goods, increasing to 50% in a week. Colombia threatened tariffs of its own, but ultimately backed down.
Sends a message to other countries that the president means what he says and that he is going to deliver punishment if countries don't cooperate.
With immigration crackdown operations ramping up across the country, Immigration and Customs Enforcement reported nearly 1,000 arrests Sunday. Erica Brown, CBS News, Washington.
Farming and ranching is a way of life, but it's hardly an easy one, and sometimes it can even turn dangerous. Last week in Columbia Falls, Rory Wells was moving hay bales in his barn when a stack fell over and crushed him. He was life-flighted to the hospital and has already undergone multiple surgeries. In tonight's Montana Ag Report, MTN's Sean Wells takes us through Rory's recovery after this freak accident turned his world upside down.
Rory Wells was working his daily routine, feeding his family's horses and moving hay around inside his barn when something went terribly wrong.
And he bent over to pick up a pallet, and 13 bales of hay came over on top of it.
Rory was crushed underneath thousands of pounds of hay bales, left unable to move.
They weigh approximately 1,000 pounds each, is right in that, give or take, depending on the bale and stuff. Anywhere from 850 to 1,100, 1,200 pounds.
Bob Wells was at his family home in Creston when he received a call from his son Rory.
He had his phone sitting on another bale of hay, and he said he couldn't reach it. And so he called out, "Hey Siri, call Pop," and he says that she responded really good. She called right away, and then he told her to hang up, and then he told her to call 911, and she did.
Bob raced over to Rory's property as first responders helped stabilize his body and life flight him to Logan Health in Kalispell.
The first thing my brother-in-law, when we walked back to count the bales to see how many actually fell, my brother-in-law said that he was surprised that he even lived.
Rory suffered a fractured leg, knee, ankle, wrist, and nose, undergoing multiple surgeries as he continues his recovery in the hospital. Bob says he's not sure when his son will be able to go back to his day job as a conductor for BNSF.
He has been informed that he cannot put any weight on that leg or foot until for at least 6 months.
As Rory begins his rehabilitation, a GoFundMe page has been set up to help cover medical bills and support his wife and 2 daughters as they adjust to their new life. Bob is thankful to everyone supporting Rory and his young family.
You know, I knew he was well loved by a lot of his friends and family, you know, but I really didn't expect it to be this good. Like I said, if he just met you yesterday, he is now your best friend. That's the kind of person he is.
In Columbia Falls, Sean Wells, MTN News.